Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Just Two Guys in the Super Smashcast Episode 2. I'm Trey.
I'm Joshua, and today we have our special guest, Ataraxia.
Hey, what's up? It's me.
So, Ataraxia is a major player in the local scene around Oxford, Mississippi, and in that area. And basically, if you guys have not seen the show before, the idea is think of Hot Ones, but with Super Smash Brothers. We want to throw people off. We want to make it difficult for you to answer these questions or think about them too long. Just jump into it, be casual, play the game, have a good time. So we're going to start now. Do you want to throw a quick summary to us about, who are you? What do you do? What should we know you as?
Hey, I'm Joshua. I'm from Oxford, Mississippi. I'm currently majoring in mechanical engineering. I'm currently a senior in that as well. I've been kind of playing this series since Smash 64 back when I was like 5 or so. So had a lot of history with this series. So it's the game I played the most competitive, pretty much put the most time into my whole life. So really glad to get to play it, especially competitively for my college team now.
And what did you immediately pick up Game & Watch too? Because I know you said you played 64. Who did you play before Game & Watch, and was Game & Watch your Melee guy too?
Back in 64, I was actually a Link main. I'm sure a lot of people were, because everyone played Legends of Zelda, but eventually they kind of turned into NES, and then when Melee came around, it was shortly after I started picking up competitive as well that I started looking into Falco. But a little while after playing some Falco, I wasn't really doing much with the combos themselves, so I just kind of got bored of doing a lot of the authority stuff. So I just started playing around the cast, and it's just once I kind of got me going, it's just a lot of the moves in that game, by the way, are just really kind of broken. So even if his defensive options aren't really that great in themselves, it was just so fun, as basically a casual competitive player, to just mash those on the CPU that I was training with at the time. So
No, you're fine. I was gonna say, what makes Game & Watch broken, and you said some of his moves are just kind of broken in Melee, in the casual sense. So what are some stuff that always throws people off?
One thing is that his hitboxes in that game are just massive. His neutral area is actually the biggest in the game, if I remember correctly. And on top of that, they also have insane combo potential. They have insane duration as well. They just everything about them makes they themselves even on better characters would be top tier buttons. It's just they're stuck on the chassis of Melee Game & Watch, who has no defensive options.
All right, so you walked us through your history with Smash, but can you walk us through your history with competitive Smash? Where all that began exactly, how it began, and and where you've stood at the end of every Smash game, or your feelings about the Smash games in general.
Okay. I started my competitive scene basically with my entry into competitive play with Melee back in 2013. The first tournament I ever watched Evo 2013. So that was the game when that was the time when Melee was basically dead. It was on its dying legs, and it got into Melee or got into Evo through crowdfunding. So getting to see all the passion these players are putting into it, just for a game that I always even as casual consider my favorite in the series, was just so huge. And seeing these people make that game work when I thought no one else was going to play it like that made me want to actually pick it up competitively as well. So for a little while I did that, but since I figured kind of Melee was basically solved, that I kind of toward the end of the game, I went to Melee, or I went to Brawl for a little bit. I wasn't too big on it competitively at the time, because I just seen all the stuff about Melee. I was doing all the Melee tryharding, Brawl is just worse, Brawl is bad, etc. and all, but back in those days I played Ike as well, Ike and Falco, and I think those are some of the most fun characters actually in competitive as well. Looking back on Brawl now, I actually got to play it a little more back in CEO Dreamland in 2017, and that game is honestly really fun as well. So I guess compared to how I originally thought of it, that was something I'd say is aged a lot better than I thought it had. But yeah, going from there into Smash 4, I still actually really like Smash 4, even after all this, after Ultimate's release and such. It's a game I think, I was kind of going into with fresh expectations basically. and I think that paid off a lot for like what I got out of it. Because like originally I wasn't even expecting to play Game Watch in Smash 4 either. I was planning to play Mega Man and Pac-Man, but just because like I was still experimenting with Melee at the time, I figured like why not give Game Watch a shot, and lo and behold, he wound up being one of the most fun characters in the game for me. So, and then of course going into Ultimate now. I was really actually going to switch to Palutena for a little bit because I didn't think Game Watch really had much sauce in this game, but I wound up enjoying Game Watch a lot more as the time went on, so that eventually turned into full-time maining him instead of like co-maining him in Palutena.
So when you made that transition from more casual play to taking it seriously, I know that a lot of pro players and a lot of aspiring pro players have more or less a practice like regiment for how often they play and what they lab for, like, for example, probably that. What exactly is that practice regimen for you? Did you pick up anything in particular that you do every day? Is there like an amount of time that you make yourself play every day, or what is it?
I wouldn't say it's like necessarily a daily thing that I do, but it's more like I put a lot of time into practicing my movement, honestly. Like when I do like go into the training mode for this game, it's mostly just to like move around on the platforms and like just get myself acquainted with like moving around on stage, basically. Because I feel like in this game, like or like in Smash in general, really, I think that's like the biggest skill you can have, just being comfortable moving around the stage, like giving yourself like some room to just explore and like basically like the creativity for like punishes and such comes the more comfortable you are with the stages themselves and platforming in general. So like even if I don't like necessarily practice them on a consistent like daily basis or so, that is kind of like what I do or focus on practicing every time I do play the game.
And I'll tell you what, my brief impression of you is that you're a relatively humble guy. You call yourself casual pro, that kind of thing. But humility aside, right? Like, where would you put yourself in the state leaderboard at the moment?
I would say I'm top 3, at the very least. Like, there's a lot of competition between me, Yoshi, another guy in this in Oxford, Mississippi, and a Yoshi player by the tag Keith. And currently, I think Yoshi is better than me. But it's kind of up in the air between me and Key, I think. Because we both lost Yosu, but we're even in tests together. So yeah, I think like mostly comes down to which wins you consider more valuable. Because I do have an overall positive record on Yosu myself, but I think he has just better wins overall.
So you said that Smash is the game that you put the most time in. Do you also? But I saw from your Twitter there was some other game that you were mentioning with relative frequency. I'm not very familiar with. What? No, I was curious what that was. I tried to find it, but it was difficult.
Oh, it's Eunice. It's Under Night and Birth EXT latest. It's an anime fighting game.
Oh, facts. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, it's kind of a more traditional fighting game as compared to the more wacky like anime fighters that are out there. Like there's air dashing, but there's not really as much unique character specific wombo combos and such. It's more focused on like the grounded aspect, I feel.
So you mentioned right now that you're probably number 3 in the state, or thereabouts, top 3.
Yeah.
Where were you placed in previous Smash games?
Really the kind of issue with Mississippi Smash was that we haven't had a PR for like 6 years now, basically. Because like our scene was never really until recently, like basically conjoined enough to really have one. So like, I guess if I were making like an unofficial ranking, I would be number 1 for it. Because like at the time I had a better record over Yosu. I had better records over like the majority of the state. So I'd say like previously I was like higher ranked, but I think I've only really dropped because the competition is kind of a lot better for that as well.
And that would be like in Smash 4, you would say that you were maybe 1?
Oh yes. I didn't really play back in I didn't really play Brawl as much competitively. Like I participated in like 2 tournaments total for it. Like outside of like just practicing like just the confirms offline and such. So in Brawl I was like definitely not nearly as good.
Okay. Now, you said you're going to school. Are there any skills that you have that could translate into Smash that you get from school, that maybe study skills or, you know, things that you learn in class, just concepts? Is there anything like that that can translate into playing Smash competitively, or just the competitive mindset?
I would say like the aspect of like time management has been really useful because I feel like prior to like going to college, I just really had a terrible like issue with prioritization. I think like going to college and like really just getting my like I guess my sense of what to prioritize and like what to focus on and such. Just I think it's contributed a lot to my Smash mentality as well because it gives me a lot more time to think of like instead of worrying about stuff I had to worry about like during tourneys and such. I know that the time I have allotted for tournaments is the time for tournaments specifically, not time for like tournaments plus worrying about whatever I have to do like remaining. So that's really helped my competitive community. As for other skills I've really learned, unfortunately, my major doesn't quite go for that. Oh, well. Yeah, my major doesn't quite go much for competitive stuff because it's mechanical engineering. But I did take a couple classes in psychology, and I think that's helped a little bit for understanding what or like how people like to think in this game.
So, something that's always like interested me is where people get the origins of their usernames. Smash has a lot of out there sort of usernames, and I decided to take a look into the term Ataraxia and just sort of research it a little bit. Was that like, you know, applying a name that has such a philosophical context to yourself, like an intentional thing, or was it just like, this is a fun word, I like the base definition of it, or was it like you studying the Stoics and deciding what like philosophy meant the most to you in that sense?
Oh no, it's actually this is gonna sound kind of dumb considering like all the references to it, but I got it from an old RPG on the what is it, the Genesis called Fantasy Star 4. It was just a word from like a skill that I really liked from that game. I thought the word sounded pretty nice, and that was pretty much the full extent of my my tag choice for that. Prior to this tag, though, I used the tags Raph and Seraph, just because like those are names I really just like the sound stuff.
See, and I was interested in asking you about JRPGs because I know you're relatively into them. What's the top 3 to you right now that you would recommend to, you know, fans of JRPGs but they may have not played them yet?
By now, do you mean like modern ones that like or like people or ones that?
Oh,
people...
any game.
Okay. I'd say
any time period.
I'd say of my favorites that'd be Final Fantasy VII, Persona 3, and kind of a hard call, but either I wouldn't really count Mega Man on that work, so I guess I'd say Golden Sun. But I guess it also depends on what kind of JRPG experience you like. Cause like I also like would rank say the original Fire Emblem 7 on the GBA as one of my like favorite JRPGs, but it's also a completely different genre than say Golden Sun or like the more traditional JRPG experiences. So you know.
Yeah, no, because Fire Emblem was a game that I've always kind of struggled to get into. Was your interest in Fire Emblem did that ever translate into trying out some of the typically a little more high tier sorties in Smash, or do you wish that was like a thing that you were actually interested in, so you could rep that franchise, you know?
It's not something I've never really kind of been worried too much about like representing a franchise, except for maybe like Golden Sun in total. I did try a couple characters just because like I did enjoy their base games and such. Like I really enjoyed Ike's Path of Radiance, especially the story. So I did give him a lot of try, and like he wanted to become my man in Brawl because of it. But I've never really like been worried about like the combination of like tier versus like the characters I play. Like I'll play just whoever I enjoy playing as opposed to like characters I enjoy like as characters. Like for example, like I mentioned that Cloud Final Fantasy VII was my favorite RPG, right? But I have like put maybe 10 hours total into Cloud and like Smash total. And like he's a fun character, but it's just the playstyle he like encourages or like encompasses is not quite the one I'm looking for. So I guess like the desire to represent series and franchises that I really like isn't quite as much there.
Gotcha. But sorry,
That's all good.
as I'm running around trying to read at the same time, it's Joshua was doing the same thing. So we'll switch over to him. You get caught up, man. It's worse
Yeah, you
on
really
us
do.
than it is on the guests. We thought, man, they're gonna be focusing, and they'll give like quicker, more concise answers, and I'm over here like, how do you read and counterplay at the same time?
Okay, so we're gonna ask a few questions about control related to your personal preferences in regards to this game. So the first question is just based on your connection to just fighting game communities in general, but more specifically Smash ones. But you see a lot of online, you get a lot of online influence in this regard as well. What, if anything, would you change about your local Smash community?
I feel like a lot of it is just a matter of like wanting to grind the game themselves. Like from what I understand, a lot of them like do care about the game, but back in like Smash 4, a lot of it came down to just the only two of us that were like really committed to consistently getting better for a little while was me and Yosu, and that made it really difficult to want to keep running like the tournaments that we did because like if no one's trying to get like to their best, then it feels like I'm just like wasting time sometimes. I think it's improved a little bit in Smash 4 because like a lot more people are like actively trying to improve as well. But I would like to see, I guess, more dedication to us just streaming and like practicing the games themselves outside of like weekly time.
Okay.
That might sound a little greedy, I'm sure, but it's just.
No, that's the answer we were looking for, or the type of answer we were looking for. Now, once again, in regards to preference, are there any buffs or nerfs that you would make if you had control over the game?
Let's see. One thing that I was really kind of disappointed with in this game in particular was how they changed. I feel like making him focus around Nair just hurt a lot of his diversity as a character in particular. Like he used to be a very much fundamentals-based character that rewarded making good reads with huge smash attacks, with huge good punishes, like a good grab. But in this game, they more so focus on his Nair and just like instead of giving the tools to compensate that, they nerfed all his other tools to make it like that he basically has to focus on the move now. I feel like if I were to make some changes, like personally, like not even for the sake of balance, just for the sake of like personal preferences and such, I'd make changes to like either revert him or otherwise change him to focus for like a more traditional sword fighter character, basically.
Okay. And any? Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, that was basically it. Go ahead.
Are there any global mechanic changes that you would make if you could? Not specific to any characters, but just maybe just some mechanics that you think could be better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are quite a few mechanics changes that I personally make. Like, for one thing, I make dashing a little more like melee style, where you have the ability to dash back and forth more or like faster. Like the gaps between the two actions are reduced a little bit. I'd also reintroduce being able to use your shield to drop from platforms and such, allowing for platform pressure to not be nearly as oppressive as it currently is. Let's see. I would also reduce the extent to which shields decay in this game, because I feel like a lot of the shield pokes you tend to see in this game are due to the moves themselves, or like having high shield damage plus shields themselves like exponentially getting smaller the more you hold them, and sometimes you just have to hold them. So instead of like forcing pressure, I just prefer to make it so that shielding is a more valid option. Let's see. I'd also like to remove two things regarding shield as well. There's I'm sure you both know about the 11 frames before you can do anything after you drop shield. I'd like to reduce that to at least like 7 frames, so it's not nearly as much of an issue like to try and punish out of shield. Because as it stands, a lot of characters in this game just straight up get gatekept by the fact that they cannot pressure or like press buttons on a block where a lot of the good characters can. Or sorry, press buttons to punish people out of block while a lot of the good characters can. So there'd be that, and then the last thing I really want to change is removing the 4-frame window when you grab something, or when you grab at a shield, because that indirectly punishes out of shield as well.
So when we were checking in to get this episode started, come up with a couple questions for you, I decided to take a look on YouTube, and I found that you have a channel, but that for the most part you seem to upload brief tech videos or videos about specific kill confirms with Game & Watch, especially back and forth. Do you have any interest in jumping back into that, or would you make long form content if given the opportunity and time?
Not quite, honestly. It was mostly I use the channel for the sake of different questions and such that get asked in the Game Watch Discord. I want to make sure that the questions they need answered are ones that have concrete videos to go with the theory I'm providing, mostly.
Gotcha. So these were videos that were made with specific questions in mind.
Yeah, some of them are shit posts. There's one where I'm literally just doing 4 viewer versus on Smash Ball, I think it was. Just because someone asked me, what's the max number of viewer versus you can do on the stage in one life?
Okay, so I'm sure that this is not news to you in any regard, but there's been a lot of talk lately after Big House 9 about Game & Watch on Twitter, mostly concerning Meister. What are your thoughts on all of this? Just general thoughts that you have.
It's been kind of annoying, honestly. I don't mind it so much when the players that have actually had to deal with the character have their own complaints about it, because they've seen it, it's fair. But a lot of the complaints I'm seeing are mostly just related to the watching aspect. It's coming from people that haven't even really had to fight the character, so it just feels very reactionary, if that makes sense.
Right.
I've seen people that previously, just a month ago, were hitting on, say, Paladin or whoever the flavor of the month character of the week is, now turning to Game Watch and talking about how he does brain dead X or Y for free. You press the enter button, you go through, you just avoid playing neutral entirely. All these different cookie cutter complaints that, for the most part, just come from watching the character instead of actually fighting the character. So it's been a little annoying.
Do you have?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you have any personal thoughts on Meister or how he plays that you that maybe reflect your own Game & Watch play?
Truth be told, I'm not the biggest fan of Meister for a couple different reasons. His play is fine. He's actually got a really good advantage state, for example. He's a bit there heavy at times, but a lot of Game Watch are, so I can't really fault him too much for that. The big thing that I'm kind of frustrated with Meister is that he tends to basically, for the sake of checking egos and such, he'll make personal shots at any other relevant Game Watches for the sake of just protecting his ego, basically. But it has.
I see.
That said, the stuff he has confident characters, his use of forward air and up B in particular, especially for chasing or getting people off stage, to set up into stage traps, are the best of any Game Watch free. So I do incorporate a lot of those traps, but it's kind of begrudgingly, because I'm a little sad at what he does. He personally, he actually I'm not sure if you saw a little month or so back, but he made fun of a friend of mine recently for losing to a K-roll at a major. Mind you, my friend got I think it was a second at that major, and it was a B tier. It was far from that performance, but he took a shot because the character he lost to, and it's just, it feels very rude sometimes.
I'm curious. You do rank yourself within the top 3, and with the top 1 for during the time Smash 4 was being really heavily played, or at least as close to heavily played in your area.
Yeah.
So how do you manage not having an ego about it? Is it just hey, it's just a video game, or what's the thought process that you put behind yourself to not be because I've been at locals around you, and I've seen you beat someone, and they can sometimes get a pretty bad attitude, especially getting 3-stocked or whatever's going on. And for you typically go, oh man, no, but you did good at this, and you bring people up. What reminds you to do that?
For a little while, I actually was a little bit kind of an asshole like that. I used to have kind of a big ego problem, especially getting mad when I lost. But a lot of it eventually just came down to eventually I realized I didn't really like getting that mad, kind of. It might sound simple, but it's just I didn't really like those emotions I was really experiencing. So after a while, it's just I made a concerted effort to try and stop being that guy, basically. I know no one likes to hear about how a top player says they're bad when they do something wrong or so, or just in general, because like it makes them feel like they're even more so. And I know a lot of people don't really like hearing people all the bragging as well. So just in an effort to like reduce a lot of the toxicity that I myself is not really enjoying as much, I just try and cut it out as much as I can. It's a little simple. I'm sorry, but it's just like.
Okay, so we're gonna do kind of a quick little lightning round real quick.
Okay.
So, you know, you don't have to answer quickly, but the questions are a little bit shorter this time around. Isolated from, you know, the characters, what do you think is the best move in the game?
The best move in the game, I'd say either Game Watch up B, Plant Neutral B, or possibly Pika up B. Or sorry, Pikachu up B, I should be more clear.
Okay.
Do you want me to go into more detail, or?
If you want to, yeah. Feel free to.
I feel like Plant Neutral B alone is better than like 5 characters in this game, personally. It kind of like plays every aspect of the game, which is insane for a button. It both like it sets up some of the best ledge trapping in the game. It has some of the best advantage state trapping in general. It's good for like getting kind of a disadvantage, like because if you hit him during it, it'll just drop on you, and then it even play neutral because like the ball itself stays out for a little while, so really hard to get in on. As for Game Watch up B, I feel like literally any character in this game improves by having Game Watch up B. Like it just not only does it the fastest out of shot option in the game, it combos into everything. It combos into it sets up combos. It sets up edge guards. It edge guards in itself. It just really does everything it can. It's kind of going to be the general theme as well, that these buttons do everything on top of just being pretty good in themselves. But yeah, same with Pikachu up B. Like, not only does it give him a free intro for a neutral, which is something that you'll see Pikachu struggle a lot with because his up B doesn't have the hitbox, whereas Pikachu's does. So like you'll see Pikachu struggle a lot more in neutral to like open people up than I would say that Pikachu does, specifically because up B is that good of a move.
Okay. Next character. Who do you think? Our next question is: who do you think the best character is in the game?
I would probably say either Lucina or Pikachu.
And very last question while we're sitting here on the end screen: what's your favorite meme? Best meme?
My favorite meme?
Yeah.
I've been really kind of feeling the bro he vibing though recently. All the he vibing pics.
Okay, I feel it. I can vibe with that.
I am also a relatively big JRPG nerd.
Okay.
So I want you to tell me right now. Did you play Bravely Default?
Yes, that is one of my favorite JRPGs of all time.
Please give me your concise review, and also give me a rating out of 10.
Concise review regarding like gameplay and story, or just like.
Oh, as a package.
Okay.
How good is this game?
I would say that while the story flounders a little bit, like in the halfway point, the gameplay itself is just so incredibly fresh. It brings so much to like JRPGs as a whole that I feel like it's just kind of like something you really cannot miss out if you're a fan of it. Just because like the way it like lets you experiment is something that, like with your gameplay is just something you don't really see in a lot of JRPGs, especially like a lot of like team or like character specific builds and such. Whereas Bravely Default puts a lot of focus on how creative you can be with your builds and stuff, like with 4 different basically empty slates. And because of that, I would probably give it around a 9 out of 10.
See, because I was such a huge fan of Bravely Default, but I found Bravely Second was kind of lacking. Did you get the same experience?
Yes, I would say so as well. I felt like there was more creativity possible in Bravely Second, but like in more neutered ways, if that makes sense. Like the broken like stuff in Bravely Default, like in particular the stuff with the time aspects, was incredibly fun, like funny. It's just like you just utterly break the game on your knee. But whereas the broken stuff in Bravely Second, while definitely more balanced, was just not as satisfying, I guess. And of course, the story definitely took a hit. The writing took a little bit of a hit, but yeah, I would say overall that plus I think the music of Bravely Default was one of its one of its better aspects, and I feel like Bravely Second just did not quite hold up to Rivet defaults highest. Let's say Rivet's second will have better class variability. Probably gets maybe a 7 out of 10.
All right, so let's not beat around the bush here, Ataraxia. You are good at Smash.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
What suggestions do you have for anyone else who wants to be good at Smash?
I think the biggest thing that a lot of players can start moving first of is not only just like getting used to it, like I mentioned earlier, but also just trying to like catch, I guess, the rhythm of the game. Like you'll see in a lot of senses like how interactions can like go in terms of like almost flow like music in a sense, where you kind of know that a button is going to be pressed by this person here, even if you don't know the exact button that's going to be pressed. You know that a button is coming. So I feel like understanding like or like getting used to that rhythm and like trying to play according to that is a huge way for a lot of different players to get better. On top of that, I'd say also just consistent practice, like at least until the point where you feel like you're confident understanding the game itself is huge for just gradually getting better at the game, because otherwise it's just you're kind of hoping for a level up, if that makes sense. Like you're waiting for like that inspiration to come to you, and sometimes it just never does unless you put the effort in to get it yourself.
How often should you say that someone should practice?
I'd say if you're trying to go like full on like top level competitive, at least every other day and at least for a couple of hours. But I know that, for example, the bus says if you don't put at least 2 hours in every day, you're not really trying to be like a top level player, basically. And
how long? Oh, I'm so sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, while I don't quite agree with that amount of time per se, I do agree with the sentiment that if you're not regularly practicing like for a consistent amount of time, then you're not putting as much effort in as say like the best of the best are. Yeah, go ahead.
And how long do you think it now I know this is this might be a question that you can't answer, but how long do you think it should take for someone to get good at the game, to maybe to your level? Or,
yeah, it's like
we'll say to your level.
It's like kind of what you said. Like I can't really answer. Like I can't give a concrete number for that because how people like understand or like process what this game looks like at their higher levels depends completely on the person. Like it took me personally about I say 3,000 hours, like 2,000 in Smash 4, and then like a 500-ish in this game to really get to, I guess, to a level where I could say I was really good at Smash like that. While I wouldn't say there's like a definitive amount of like time you had to put into becoming a good player, I think it's something that the more time you put into it, the more likely it's going to come to you if it hasn't already. That's basically the end of the plot.
So let's say that we've got a player who's new to tournament play in general. Chin up basically. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to put the work in.
Okay. I'd say for a player like that is just like getting into the game like competitively whatsoever, so long as they have some experience with just moving around in Smash, the core concepts of competitive that being like understanding your opponent's movements and just like tracking how they like to like get around and such. You can feasibly understand that in say 500-ish hours worth. But like I guess consistently pulling off in bracket is like is the part that's more dependent on the player. It's just like you kind of have to get an idea of what it looks like to I guess move around in this game, and I think that takes a little bit of time. And I guess like 500 would be a reasonable take for that.
To throw back a little bit, we were nerding out about certain games and certain but I know that you've got interests outside of games for sure. What would you say, for example, might be best movie, best book? What's a piece of media that you just wish more people engaged with?
I don't really watch too many movies personally, but I am pretty big on books. Like even outside of like the good books from like actual school reading, like 1984 and Brave New World and all that. A lot of the books I feel like just adult fiction in general is really good for getting people to like just think or just like consider like not just the real world but also I guess what it means to like just various different concepts like thinking itself, the concept of creativity in a very restricted world, like what it means to be creative and so on. Yeah, like books are a huge way. I'm not. I feel like I'm kind of uncultured in that regard. I'm mostly reading and play video games, but I do listen to a little bit of music, but not enough. As I feel a lot of the music I've been listening to lately has been lo-fi hip hop, like unironically. Those beats of chill and studying I like to, or have carried my college experience, if that counts.
I've got about 2 questions, but they might end up having the same answer. So, the first one is, what other games do you have a competitive interest in that perhaps you just haven't had the time to actually put the time into to get good at it?
There's 2 of them that I would say. I do want to put more time into Eunice, which I've been working on a little bit more recently this semester. That being the funny I mentioned earlier. And then the other one is actually competitive Mega Man Battle Network from the GBA. Because that game is actually some of the sickest plays. It's basically a fighting game on the GBA, except it actually works.
Huh.
It is.
I've never heard of it.
It's kind of like I guess the easiest way to describe it is like you make your own deck, but kind of like Magic, but then it's real time. And then you have to cast these spells in real time, finding openings to pull them out and such. It's really cool.
Okay, well, the second one is, aside from Smash, because you mentioned having a connection with Smash pretty early on. Aside from Smash, are there any games that you've just had a general deep connection with that maybe have just stuck with you for a while? Even if it's not a fighting game, just something that you find yourself thinking about as you sleep sometimes, or just that was a cool moment or something.
Yeah, that would actually still be the Mega Man Battle Network. That's a game that's been a huge part of my childhood. It's a game that I still think about something that I've even kind of been trying to support recently through indies and such that I've really tried to replicate that feel. I'd say that and that's it. Yeah, pretty much those 2 games. Smash and Mega Man Battle Network.
What makes that game have that impact on you?
Just the sheer creativity of it, not just of the world itself, but also the gameplay. I don't feel like any other game of recent day has ever replicated that gameplay style. That's just the customization. There's a lot of I wouldn't even really say the characters, because the characters are fairly basic. It's just the gameplay's really good.
That's fair. And you've mentioned JRPGs obviously being a favorite genre of yours,
yeah.
And obviously fighting games are to an extent. Any other genres that resonate with you pretty deeply? Just as a base, you hear about a new game coming out, it's a new IP, and you're interested in it because it's this genre. What would that genre be? That we haven't mentioned yet already.
Probably puzzle games. Because one of my favorite games of all time is Tetris, actually. And because of the collab they had with Puyo back in 2016, 2017, I got really into that game. I've gotten really into just a lot of those fast action puzzle games like that. So I really seeing what people do to freshen up the genre, because a lot of people are kind of worried at this point of being Tetris or Puyo clones. So seeing what they do to mix up the formula or just otherwise spin the genre is just always really interesting to me.
All right, we've got another one in the bag, and it's been a great time hanging and playing. Where can people find you, and where should they look?
I'm typically active over in Discord for Ataraxia. I'm also on Twitter at Ataraxia FG. Let's see. I stream occasionally at Ataraxia SSB. I kind of stream a lot of variety. I've been streaming a lot of an indie game recently. One Step from Eden. And yeah, those are the main sources. You can also find the Oxford stuff over at Oxford FGC on Twitch, as well as the Oxford FGC Discord that I can send y'all later.
Yeah, and all those links are definitely going to be in the description. Maybe this gets in, maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's just your plug time. But is there anything last minute that you want to say to anybody?
I'd say I want to thank a lot of my local scene for giving a lot of the motivation to continue like stand around. Like they've given me a lot of like motivation, not just host for the game, but also just to keep playing the game in the first place because they care. Like the amount of support they show has been hugely integral to me. Like I really, in a lot of ways, I feel like I could not have had the same like I guess like lasting time without their support. I really appreciate what they've done for us.
All right. Well, then with that, we're gonna say thank you for coming around. Looks like you're gonna take the last game, no losses so far, and we appreciate you coming out, Joshua. Is there
Yeah,
any,
absolutely. Once again, everybody, if anyone has any relative interest in talking to him, he's a really great dude. You can find him at all the links that he's already said. They're all in the description, and genuinely, you should watch him play. You should look up some of his sets maybe. Yeah, and just learn from him because he knows what he's talking about. And yeah, so that's my thoughts. I mean, how many stocks have we taken this whole time, right? Like
maybe
3 or 4 each. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's definitely, you've got a lot to learn, and he's a great person to learn from. So
I appreciate y'all for having me.
Oh yeah, of
facts,
course,
man.
of course. We were lucky that you said yes.
With that, we'll just say if you guys enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, press that like button. We usually don't beg people about it. We probably should. Meta analytics are important. We appreciate y'all very much. And feel free to check out Twitch. We might have guests come by every once in a while. Maybe Ataraxia, maybe somebody else. I don't know.
Yeah.